Lost Tsar's gold. On July 17, 1918, Nicholas II, the last Tsar of Russia, and his family met a tragic end. They were killed, shot and bayoneted, in the basement of the house where they were held captive in Yekaterinburg. This brutal event marked the cessation of a dynasty that had ruled Russia for over 300 years and extinguished one of the wealthiest families on the planet. A significant portion of their vast fortune remained undiscovered, fueling speculation and mystery for decades. However, the recent unearthing of a letter from the KGB archives may have finally shed light on the whereabouts of the last Tsar's lost riches. It has long been accepted that the riches that are still unaccounted for are hidden somewhere in Siberia. The sparsely populated region was a White Army stronghold for much of the Russian Civil War and enjoyed a brief period of independence shortly after the Bolsheviks took over the Russian government. The specific location of the treasure, however, has remained unknown. Stalin commissioned searches for the Tsar's lost wealth throughout the 1930s, but found little of it. During World War II, Hitler financed an expedition to search for the lost gold and jewels during the German invasion of Russia. It was led by former members of the White Army, who believed they knew where the treasure had been hidden. The mission was a disaster. The Red Army eviscerated the expeditionary force, and nothing was found. Even after Stalin's death, the Soviet government continued looking for the treasure. The KGB conducted exhaustive searches and often came up empty-handed. However, the newly released file on the hunt for the Tsar's gold reveals they may have been close to finding it. During an interrogation by the NKVD, the KGB's predecessor, former White Army soldier Karl Peruk claimed that he and a fellow soldier had buried 26 boxes of gold and jewels 5 miles away from the Taiga railway station on the Trans-Siberian line. According to Peruk, his company was on a train retreating from the Red Army when his commanding officers realized that they would be captured before they reached safety. To keep the riches from falling into enemy hands, Peruk and his comrade buried the boxes of gold some 8 feet deep. The day after they finished their task, they were captured by the Red Army. According to the KGB report, the treasure was never found. Whether this revelation leads to the discovery of the Tsar's lost gold is yet to be seen. Previous expeditions have been based on similar accounts, but none have succeeded in finding the final remnants of a once powerful dynasty. The Baikal swimmers. In the icy depths of Siberia's Lake Baikal in 1982, the story of an encounter with mysterious creatures emerged that defies explanation. 7 Navy divers, engaged in routine training, encountered beings not of our world, towering humanoid figures glowing with ethereal light, adorned with orbs that floated like spectral umbrellas above their heads. This chilling encounter with the entity is now known as the Baikal swimmers introduces us to a world deep beneath the surface of the Earth's deepest and oldest freshwater lake, where the line between known and unknown blurs. Lake Baikal is not merely a natural wonder due to its age and size. It's a biological treasure trove, home to species found nowhere else on Earth. Among its unique residents are the luminescent Golemyanka fish, the plump, enduring Baikal seals, and the enormous Baikal sturgeon. These creatures hint at the oxygen-rich lake's capacity to nurture life in forms both familiar and unfathomable. The modern legend of the Baikal swimmers stems from a harrowing experience reported by Navy divers. Tasked with a routine exercise at a depth of 50 meters, the men were unprepared for the confrontation with the unknown. These beings, dwarfing the divers with their size and radiating a mysterious light, instilled an immediate sense of dread. Understandably alarmed, the divers aborted their training and reported the encounter to their officers. They were then ordered to capture one of the creatures for closer examination, compelling them to confront the unknown once more. Upon their second encounter, the 7 divers were forcefully propelled to the surface by the entities. The rapid ascent without proper decompression led to immediate signs of the bends among the divers. With only 2 decompression chambers available, accommodating 2 individuals each, 4 divers received the necessary treatment, while the remaining 3 succumbed to their conditions. The fearsome legend of the Baikal swimmers has haunted the region ever since. The divers' alleged encounter is not the sole account of strange or otherworldly beings in the vicinity of Lake Baikal. In 1977, researchers V. Alexandrov and G. Seliverstov reported seeing unexplained lights moving through the water while in a submersible 1,200 meters deep in Lake Baikal. And in 2009, A bright red UFO was observed and photographed multiple times around the lake before vanishing. Older legends even recount the Baikal swimmers predating the 1982 incident. One such tale tells of a peasant whose fishing boat was attacked by one of the humanoid creatures. Rallying the villagers, the peasant led a retaliation against the creatures, capturing and punishing them severely to ensure they would not threaten his village again. Despite these compelling tales, the absence of verifiable evidence leads many to skepticism. The Soviet and later Russian government silence on these matters fuels speculation of a cover-up intended to obscure the reality of the Baikal swimmers and perhaps other secrets buried within the lake's depths. The Petrozavodsk phenomenon. In the middle of the night on September 20th, 1977, the serene skies of northeastern Europe and the Soviet Union were pierced by an extraordinary phenomenon. From Copenhagen, Denmark to Vladivostok in the Sea of Japan, residents were greeted by glowing figures that danced across the heavens. Amidst these illuminations, the most baffling spectacle was reserved for the city of Petrozavodsk in the Soviet Union. At precisely 4 a.m. local time, a colossal light burst forth above Petrozavodsk, casting the city into daylight. Nikolai Milov, a diligent reporter for the Russian news agency TASS, was among the first to document this marvel. He described witnessing, quote, a huge star that flared up in the dark sky, impulsively sending shafts of light to the earth. This celestial visitor, as described by Milov and corroborated by other eyewitnesses, soon transformed, spreading out over the city with a jellyfish-like shape. It began, quote, showering the city with a multitude of very fine rays, creating an illusion of pouring rain. Following this spectacular display, the luminous jellyfish morphed into a bright semicircle before gradually receding into the night. For approximately 15 minutes, the skies above Petrozavodsk were lit by this unexplainable phenomenon, providing ample time for observation. The initial wave of light was reported to be around 7.5 kilometers across, with a core width of 60 to 120 meters. The jellyfish form, it assumed, spanned 105 meters, emitting a brilliance so intense that witnesses likened the night to being illuminated by a full moon. Despite a thorough investigation by the Soviet government, authorities could not reach a definitive explanation for the Petrozavodsk phenomenon. While some speculated that the light was a consequence of the launching of the satellite Cosmos 955, this theory was largely dismissed. The satellite's launch lacked the observed phenomenon's luminosity and dynamic shape-shifting attributes. Moreover, it failed to account for similar lights seen in cities like Copenhagen and Helsinki, far removed from Petrozavodsk. In the years since, similar jellyfish-shaped UFOs have been reported worldwide, with thermal images released by the U.S. military revealing jellyfish-shaped entities invisible to the naked eye. These sightings pose the question, are these occurrences mere coincidences, or do they indicate visits by entities from beyond our world? The Impossible Mind. In 1968, a case study from the Soviet Union took the world of psychology by storm. In the mind of a mnemonist, Alexander Luria cataloged decades of experiments conducted on the incredible memory abilities of a man referred to simply as S. The study founded the discipline now known as neuropsychology, and the abilities exhibited by S challenged our most basic understandings of human memory. The man whose brain shocked the world was named Solomon Cherysevsky. Aware of the incredible abilities of his mind from a young age, Cherysevsky brought himself to the forefront of psychological interest when, unannounced, he visited the Moscow Academy of Communist Education and recited an entire news article from memory verbatim after he had heard it only once. He was immediately introduced to Luria, who found that the abilities of Cherysevsky's brain were almost impossible to believe. Within minutes, he could memorize poems in languages he'd never heard, or perfectly recite complex math equations in lengthy speeches. Cherysevsky never made a mistake in his recollections. His ability to recall information was truly perfect. His powers exceeded that of mere memory. Using the unbelievable strength of his brain, Cherysevsky could alter his physical body in ways no other known human could. He could decrease his heart rate to 70 beats per minute or increase it to over 100, simply by picturing himself in relaxing or stressful scenarios. He could also raise the temperature of one hand by 2 degrees while lowering the temperature of the other by 1.5 degrees by picturing his hands touching a warm or cold object. Though not tested by Luria, Cherysevsky also claimed that he could avoid feeling pain by picturing the pain happening to somebody else. Cherysevsky's brain was so powerful that he could not consistently control it. For most of his life, He was unable to forget any words he had learned at any point, resorting to burning lists of words and hoping that the visual reality of words disappearing into ash would erase them from his brain. His vocabulary was also out of his control. If the sound of a word didn't match the feeling of the object or concept it conveyed, Shereshevsky could not say the word out loud. He once refused to buy a flavor of ice cream he liked because the tone of the waitress who offered it to him gave him the impression of bricks of coal falling out of her mouth, ruining his appetite. No one knows why Shereshevsky's brain worked the way it did. All that is known is that his abilities challenged everything humanity thought it knew about a person's ability to memorize information, as well as a person's power over unconscious physical functions. To this day, the fascinating subject known as S proves that the depths of the human mind and its power remain far more mysterious than we would like to admit. The door to hell. Located in the heart of Turkmenistan's Karakum Desert is a crater of fire that's burned for over half a century. Known as the Gates of Hell, this 70-meter wide, 30-meter deep hole is perpetually consumed by rolling flames, attracting nearly 6,000 tourists annually to marvel at the fiery maw. Despite extensive speculation, the exact origin of the crater remains a mystery. The prevailing narrative suggests that a Soviet mining accident in 1972 created this fiery pit. In an effort to tap into the vast natural gas reserves lying beneath Turkmenistan's surface, miners inadvertently triggered the ground's collapse at their drilling site. There are varied accounts of the incident. Some believe the ground caved in around the site, while others argue that a Soviet rig plummeted through the earth, creating the massive chasm. Regardless of the exact cause, the operation exposed a vast seeping reservoir of natural gas. To mitigate the risk of gas poisoning the surrounding air, the decision was made to ignite the gas, expecting the inferno to extinguish itself within a few days. Contrary to their predictions, the blaze has persisted for over 50 years. This tale, while plausible, is contested by some Turkmen geologists who argue that the crater was formed in the 1960s, but oddly wasn't ignited until the 1980s, following a reassessment of the leaking gas's potential toxicity. Canadian explorer George Karunas' investigation into the crater's origins revealed another layer to the mystery. He discovered that, due to the importance of natural gas drilling during the Soviet era, all documentation pertaining to the crater's formation or the mining operations was classified, remaining inaccessible to this day. In 2022, the president of Turkmenistan announced his intention to extinguish the crater, citing it as a hazard to the region. This decision was puzzling, given the crater's 50-year history of burning without any documented health or safety issues for the surrounding desert area. Efforts to devise a solution for the crater have thus far been unsuccessful, and the dilemma of extinguishing the flames may remain as unresolved as the question of the crater's creation. Are there any cases of Soviet technology or experiments that could explain some of these mysteries? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you for watching Dark 5. Like and subscribe to continue exploring the greatest mysteries of this world and beyond.